All right, so you're cutting trying to get shredded. Should you go ahead and increase the amount of cardio you're doing or decrease the amount of food you're eating per day to increase that caloric deficit to help you burn fat? So how you go about doing this, whether you decide to decrease the amount of food you're eating, decrease the amount of calories you're eating per day, or increase the amount of cardio you're doing, how you go about doing this, if you do this the right way, it's going to allow you to burn fat so much more efficiently. And more importantly, by the time you get to the end of your cut, or if you're doing a bodybuilding competition prep, you're going to have so much better of a look. You're going to have a lot more muscle. You're going to be more shredded and jacked than if you go ahead and do things the wrong way, which a lot of people, when they go ahead and they set up their cut, they do things the wrong way. Most people, when they go ahead and set up a cut without really knowing how to do it, is they'll go ahead, jack up cardio, or really decrease calories way too aggressively in the beginning, and it just ends up tearing through tissue. And yes, they'll go ahead and lose weight, but along with that weight, they're not just burning fat, they're also burning through some tissue. So what we want to do here is we want to coerce the body to burn fat. We're not trying to force the body to drop weight. We want to go ahead and work with the body and coerce the body to essentially burn that fat steadily over time without ripping into too much tissue. So when we go ahead and we're trying to cut, the way to cut is we create a calorie deficit. We're burning more calories than what we're consuming. The way to do this comes about with two main tools. There's a bunch of other tools out there, but the two main tools that we have access to is creating calorie deficit by decreasing the amount of food we eat per day, or increasing our caloric expenditure, typically coming from prescribed cardio or some people track steps. For the sake of this video, we're going to combine cardio and steps as the same thing. But those are the two main tools that we have at our disposal. Like I said, a lot of people right out of the gate, if they're trying to start a cut, are going to go ahead and just jack up cardio really high and then really decrease calories. That's going to increase fatigue at such a high rate. So when we're in a cut and we're really trying to not just lose weight, we're just namely trying to burn fat. That way we hold all the muscle tissue we have. That way we can end the cut with as much, or really close to as much muscle mass. That way we're not just lean, but we're also shredded and jacked. The way to do this is maintaining your strength performance in the gym. So what happens with so many people is as they go deeper and deeper into a cut, fatigue increases, and then strength performance drops off pretty rapidly and pretty heavily in the gym. With that strength performance drop also comes the drop in tissue. The thing that's going to hold your tissue more than anything else as you're cutting is maintaining your strength numbers and your strength performance in the gym. So having your strength numbers, everything locked in your logbook prior to starting the cut is one of the best pieces of advice I can give you. Is before you actually start your cut period, whether that's a 4-week mini cut all the way up to say a 16, 20, 24 week bodybuilding competition prep, have your strength numbers in your logbook locked in, meaning that those are your numbers, not on a good day, not on a bad day. Those are your numbers that that's your actual locked in strength, because that's what you're going to want to hold through as much of the cut or the competition prep as possible. So to essentially allow you to maintain that performance, this is where fatigue management comes in play. This is what most people outside of the competitive bodybuilding world doesn't really think about when they're cutting. They essentially just will go ahead and increase the calorie deficit and just keep losing weight each week. What you really want to do to preserve the look and have the best look possible is really manage fatigue, because fatigue is what's going to allow you to still have that performance in the gym. So this is where, should you go ahead and increase cardio or should you decrease food? So in most people, so this is myself personally, and then myself having worked with hundreds of clients over the last few years, most people, cardio is going to drive up fatigue at a much higher, faster rate than decreasing calories. So for example, decreasing calories by 250 calories per day off of your base diet is going to create much less fatigue than even say a 200 calorie bump in cardio. So let's say that for you out there, that might be 15 to 20 minutes of added extra prescribed cardio. That 15 to 20 minutes of prescribed cardio for most people is going to create more fatigue than a drop in calories by say 250-ish per day. So you're going to be able to create more of a calorie deficit by decreasing food than you are with cardio. This is why there are some bodybuilders out there. Typically, they are very, very heavily muscled bodybuilders. So the bigger guys out there, not just your typical men's physique, but actual open bodybuilders. Guys that have been doing this for a while, you'll see some guys that will do an entire competition prep without any prescribed cardio at all. They're just creating their calorie deficit essentially by dropping food. For most people, that is not going to be possible. Most people out there are going to still have to apply cardio, but when it comes to the decision of decreasing food versus increasing cardio, unless your food's already at a very, very, very low amount, for most people out there, I would recommend going ahead and decreasing the food. Like I said, everything's got to be a balancing act here. You're not going to want to be on 1,000 calories a day in zero cardio. You want to go ahead and balance things out. And for most people out there are still going to have to do quite a bit of cardio. So that's another point too. One, this is person dependent. Some people respond really, really, really efficiently to cardio. But for the most part out there, most people are going to have so much better of a time decreasing the food and dealing with the hunger that comes from that than essentially just jacking up the cardio, increasing fatigue, dropping off your strength performance in the gym, and then ripping through tissue. So the more muscle you have, the more experience in this, most of the time, the more you're going to be able to get away with less cardio when you're cutting. But in the beginning, up until that, you're probably going to have to do both. So when setting up a cut, for most people out there, when I'm setting up a cut, let's say you're in a maintenance period, or you've been in the off season, whatever your calories have been, right off the bat, week one, I want to go ahead and have it be pretty aggressive. So this is where I would drop off 750 to 1,000 calories right off the bat, and then increase cardio by say about 10 minutes. So not a huge bump in cardio and a pretty decent decrease in calories. At the beginning of the cut, you can be a little bit more aggressive. You've got a little bit more body fat in your frame. You've got a lot more water. You're going to drop weight quite quickly in the beginning. That way in the back half of the cut, when you're getting really, really lean, you won't have to dig as hard. Once again, this is also going to be better for fatigue management. So this is where in the beginning you can create a little bit more of a deficit. And I would do that namely with food, but still adding in a little bit of cardio. Now then, from there, once you stall out, what you should be looking for is about a 1%-ish drop in body weight, total body weight per week. That's a great rate for most people. 1 to 2%-ish body weight drop per week. 2 is definitely pretty aggressive. If you're doing that, once that stalls out, then you're having to make the decision. Should I go ahead and increase cardio or should I decrease food? This is where it is somewhat of a balancing act, but if you still have quite a lot of food to play with, quite a lot of carbs to play with, I would go ahead and swipe 250 calories off of your base diet. If food's already getting pretty low, or say calories or cardio is really low, go ahead and bump up cardio. But for example, where I'm at right now with this cut, in this off season, I got well over 5,500 calories per day. Right now with the cut, I'm down to 2,900 calories per day, but cardio right now is at 30 minutes fasted per day. So that should kind of give you an idea of, I've almost cut my calories completely in half, and I'm only at 30 minutes of cardio per day. This gives me a lot of room that, if I want to take the cut deeper, I still have a lot of room to play with cardio. But with that being said, I've not always been here. Back in my men's physique days, I had to be eating a lot less food, and I had to be doing, 75 to 90 minutes of cardio per day. So this is all relative to where you are, how muscled you are, all of that. But the question being, should you increase cardio or decrease food in the cut? The short answer is you're essentially probably going to want to do both for most people, but you're going to drive up fatigue much faster increasing cardio than decreasing food. So up until a point, to manage performance, you want to be decreasing food. Essentially allow yourself to have as much food as you need to maintain those strength numbers. And then as that gets to be tough to hold with that caloric number, that's then when you'd go ahead and want to make it, say, a 5-minute or 10-minute bump to your daily cardio. Essentially, you're wanting to have as much food in as you can to allow for that training performance while still creating most of your caloric deficit from the food. Because you got to think about it too. 200 calories of cardio is, for a lot of people, right around 20 minutes. Dropping off 250 calories of food in a lot of people is going to be so much easier than adding 20 whole minutes of prescribed cardio, especially if they're already at, say, 45 minutes of cardio per day. So for most people, decreasing food is going to drive up fatigue a lot less, at a lot slower rate. That's going to be better bang for your buck in the cut, but you're still probably going to need some cardio, especially depending on how deep you're trying to take the cut. It's just keep in mind that is going to drive up fatigue a little bit faster. But this is definitely a question I've gotten a lot recently. I've talked about this more on Instagram on, me keeping cardio on the lower end, and the look is so much better because of it. That's why, it's all fatigue management. And because of it, the cut is not only going smoother as far as a fat loss perspective, but it's also much better on mood and energy levels and all of that. It's so much more sustainable. So I hope that answers your question. If it did, please go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, leave any comments or questions down below. Be happy, be positive, be powerful, and have a great rest of your day.